Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Alisinvoz with JaviT titled Fuimos. And if we switch over to here, my understanding of the translation of Fuimos from my very limited Spanish is that it means we went or something along those lines, past tense. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Get the art up here on Spotify and let's go, let's do it. What do we got? I mean, the key playing is very pretty here.
Fuimos polvo de estaciones, huellas en los andenes, recortes de periódicos, cicatrices que sostienen. Fuimos trenes que no llegaron, silencios de aquel 11 de marzo. Lágrimas en la radio y nombres en los brazos. Fuimos lo que hemos vivido, los besos, la guerra, los libros prohibidos, los cines cerrados, los héroes vencidos, la voz que resiste al olvido.
Very tender.
Fuimos balcones en marzo, aplausos entre el miedo, mascarillas y promesas que el tiempo se llevó. Fuimos calles vacías y manos al cielo, la dana arrasando y el agua rompiendo el silencio. Fuimos fuego en la palma, hogares vencidos, ceniza en el alma, paisajes heridos. Leímos a Lorca entre ruinas, soñamos París en blanco y negro. Cantamos Sabina con el alma rota y amamos como si el tiempo fuera fuego. Fuimos lo que hemos vivido, las calles, los miedos, los sueños compartidos, los libros abiertos, los cines antiguos, la voz que resiste al olvido.
Great use of vibrato there. Nice to have the piano pick things up here.
Fuimos pancartas, memoria y desvelo, niños de Gaza bajo el mismo cielo, con máscaras rojas, cantamos bella chao. Soñando justicia, gritando más alto, fuimos lluvia y reconstrucción, la historia escrita a corazón. Y aunque cambie el calendario y el mundo vuelva a arder, seguiremos siendo historia en la piel y en el papel. Fuimos lo que hemos vivido, ni más ni menos que eso. Memoria hecha de heridas y amor en cada verso.
Oh, we're just finishing like that. Nice and clean. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Alisinvoz featuring JaviT. This track titled Fuimos, or We Went. In this section I'm going to be providing an overall song analysis from vocals all the way through to production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? Now, while this track is in Spanish and it's not my main sort of like my primary language, I do know like enough of Spanish to sort of get a kind of a feel for what this track is about. I mean, aside from the kind of temperament, the expression, the piano and vocal accompaniment, the kind of tone of it overall, suggesting that this could be about romance or love lost or something like that, or about like broken relationship or something like that. We talk in some parts about things either being or not being black and white. We talk about the skies and our hearts and everything like that and how we went, and I just kind of get the feeling maybe that this is more about a situation where we were this way or things occurred this way. or how things could have been. We're kind of mourning through or going through the loss of a person, either romantically or just someone in our lives there that we miss. And I think either way, again, without knowing the lyrics like natively or like having a translation, which is totally fine by, I don't expect people to provide translations for the reviews. It's just, I nonetheless really enjoyed listening to the vocalist. They have a great kind of like cadence and tone to their voice there, very comfortable in their head and chest voice. The notes come through cleanly, the words come through cleanly, they're comfortable on the microphone. They have solid presence in the mix, which to be fair, they weren't really competing with that much because the piano was a primary accompaniment throughout the piece. But just generally, you know, it was very easy to listen to their performance. There were some parts where it was very kind of quiet and tender, and other parts we sort of belted and it was a bit more sort of intense in regard to the dynamic range of the piece there. And we explored different ways of approaching the subject matter in different tones and different parts of the piece to help sort of segment it from a structural and performance perspective there so that things weren't monotonous. We had different tails and vibrato used occasionally as well to sort of further ornament the piece there and provide range there, some legato passages and some sort of like vocal trills or kind of like rolls out that I can't do it. It's part of certain language where they kind of like that kind of like oscillation there. I don't know how to, I wish I could do it so that I could show it. Those kind of trills or kind of rolls that they do between notes, they're kind of almost sort of percussive, really pleasant sound to them is carried well here, and ultimately it's just a very effective performance that sounds quite authentic. The track itself at 3 minutes 13, again, primarily consists of different verses, choruses, interludes, etc. Instrumental breaks there for the key parts there where they pick up a little bit and cover any sort of slack that's left by the absence of vocals without kind of making it too much about the keys on the right hand. Ultimately, I don't think we needed to add anything else there. There's very little filler to this track. It's very pleasant to listen to within itself as a singular concept. It has an interesting kind of feel rhythmically with the right hand there, the left hand primarily forming either the chords or the triads there or the bass lines there, with the right hand articulating different quarter, eighth and 16th notes there, exploring the scales and key signature relevant, whilst also highlighting certain notes, you know, integral to the chord progression and just being very sort of pleasant and fragrant to listen to. The vocals don't hesitate to come in, they don't leave it for a minute or whatever, they're there within like the first 15-20 seconds and they start articulating the message. And again, if you're familiar with the language, you'll probably instantly understand what's being discussed here. I don't think they needed to add more instrumentally here, primarily because of the length of the track. Like at 3 minutes 13, it's well within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. And I feel like because of the amount of sort of like range with the writing of the keys, it would almost feel superfluous to add too much more than the high and low register, especially because piano as an instrument is capable of handling those 8 octaves. The chord progressions and lines on the piano are far more sort of conservative and like very patient with the vocals, trying to support them and like build them up, which makes sense. You know, we want to be able to hear the story that's told through the mic. And there are some occasional sort of like parts where the keys hold their notes for a moment and there's like an extra bar or something, or like a half bar that's kind of unexpected and it's a bit dramatic and tense, and then suddenly, oh, the vocals come back in again, we've got like another verse or something like that. And I like those kind of, those pregnant pauses or something like that. I think that's the word for them there, those like unexpected rests there that build that tension. There's a wonderful reverb on the keys as well, which makes them seem very sort of like magical, I suppose would be the word for it. Like they seem larger than life. You can kind of imagine this played in like a big concert hall or something, with the room surrounding or supporting those resounding kind of acoustics. The use of the sustain pedal is sensible for this later section here. It just makes the piano sound a bit bigger. And I like the fact that while the vocalist kind of stays within their sort of 2 to 3 octaves of their frequency spectrum or their vocal range, the keys do rise sometimes and articulate those further higher parts there, almost kind of seeming very starry, like we're singing off towards somewhere in the night sky. Around that 2 minute mark there where they have that kind of piano solo there, I think it's just a fantastic palette cleanser there, especially when we've already had like quite a bit of the vocals at that point to dictate the mood or feel or flow of the point there. It's just nice to have that further bit of you know, variation performance wise or instrumentally. And the track kind of peters out with those keys and vocals at the end, and you kind of let that note kind of resolve or resound, and then you're finished. And it's very much a very smooth experience listening through this. There is dynamic range, both performance-wise and composite, you know, production-wise. It doesn't smother itself, not a note out of place. The thematically though, I think that we have a kind of a cautious optimism to it. It kind of resolves to the major, but there's a leaning of minors with a lot of these kind of key progressions and arpeggios, primarily because I think we are working through some stuff. It's almost like it's a bittersweet experience where like we're sad that we had to go through some of the turmoil that we did, we're also grateful that we had the opportunity to be able to do so in the first place. So I think that the note choice is great. I think we avoided overcomplicating the harmonies through use of extensions or susses or ninths or whatever like that. I think that was a sensible decision there. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering was good. I like how things were balanced within the stereo field and frequency spectrum there. The vocal, no weird resonant frequencies. The music surrounded you in the headphones. The keys were appropriately placed for what we needed to be able to do there. There was dynamic range from a production perspective. Again, things weren't the same loudness all the time. Things were allowed to sort of like go in and out and like organically there. Things weren't over compressed or glued. There was a kind of a wispy kind of like tone to the vocals there, which is a little bit interesting, but overall they had presence within the mix. I think the reverb tails that we had on the keys and the vocals were smart, nice and loud, without pumping, especially due to a lack of percussion there. And generally the studio side was done well. There's no real applicable constructive critique for me with this kind of minimalism in this form factor. I don't really think we needed to do more with that. And then finally, it's just my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. It makes me want to sort of polish up on my Spanish so that I can listen to these stories and understand them a bit more comprehensively, because I just feel like I'm missing certain components by not being able to being as familiar. But at the same time, it's just kind of cool to be able to know, to be motivated to learn a language through the music that I hear that encompasses it. So thank you very much for watching my review of this track from an actor Alisinvoz featuring JaviT. The song titled Fuimos. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via the various social medias and our Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the great stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.